Welcome to Business and Beyond, the podcast where business leaders and big ideas meet real-world challenges. I'm Julie Wheeler, President and CEO of the BBB serving Western Virginia. Each episode, we will bring you candid conversations, expert insights, and real-life stories to help you lead with purpose, build trust, and grow your business with confidence. Hello, and welcome to Business and Beyond. Today, we have a real nice special guest. We're joined by Jen Slightham, CEO of 434 Marketing in Lynchburg, Virginia. 434 Marketing began in 2016 and is a BBB accredited business. Their main focus is to help organizations uncover business objectives, map customer journeys, and create strategies that support long-term success. They help businesses reach the right people through strategic digital marketing and consulting. Jen often says she is not a marketer and that her specialty is creating connections. We're thrilled to have her here today. Thank you for being here. Today, we're going to talk about how AI, artificial intelligence, is changing search engine optimization and what businesses need to know to stay ahead of the curve in the ever-changing landscape of digital marketing. Welcome, Jen. So thankful that you're here with us today because you're going to give me an education. This is an area where I feel like I can use a whole lot of your expertise and knowledge. So
happy to be here.
Yes. Well, we are going to jump right in with a big question. You know, we've heard over many years that SEO has been declared dead. You know, that it's no longer, we don't need to focus on that. We don't need to pay attention when we're doing our marketing with that. But now in 2025, it's not dead, it's just different. Can you explain how artificial intelligence has reshaped the search and how why answer engine optimization matters and how it works in with SEO?
Yes, it is obviously a really complex landscape right now. We are learning every day. It's changing very rapidly. Right now, the way that we're looking at it is SEO isn't dead, but it is evolving, obviously.
Right.
At this point, as we go through this conversation, I'm looking forward to talking more about even the terminologies that are being used.
Right.
A lot of people are saying it's no longer SEO, it's AEO, which, the terminology there can either be AI engine optimization, answer engine optimization. So there are a lot of things that we're discussing in terms of terminology and what the experts are saying.
Well, if you think about search engine optimization, people are still searching. And we still need to make sure that we have everything out there on our website so that we get the optimized search engine results.
Mm-hmm.
They just may be different. Now they're showing in a summary done by a AI engine. So it's still search engine optimization. I'll be hard-pressed to get away from that. It just may not be, AdWords,
Correct,
keywords
correct.
And that kind of stuff.
Correct.
So,
The other terminology that we're playing around it with is search experience optimization.
Gotcha.
So that's another term that we're using and hearing a lot as well. So it's going to be a continual conversation in the terms of what is changing, but AI-driven search isn't going anywhere.
Right.
That could be anything from Google's AI overview to ChatGPT to Perplexity, all the different tools that are out there. We're going to see that continue to increase. Even voice search with Siri, and things like that. So it's going to continue to increase for sure.
Right.
But I think when it comes down to it, what SEO, AEO is going to be is that if you're going to show up in those results, it is because you are a trusted resource for the information that the person is looking for.
Right. Well, we've always heard about search visibility, how important, that is. But what does brand visibility mean, as we move into this new AI world that everybody thinks is going to get rid of all human beings?
Well, we hope that it's not doomsday for sure. But I would say brand visibility, it's really, because this is all evolving, I'm going to try to speak with confidence in something that's changing very rapidly, but I've been looking at it very similarly to the way that brand visibility used to be. Mm-hmm. So if you picture billboards and magazines, they used to promise, all these impressions for being on these billboards and being in these magazines and those types of ads. And what was great about that and the businesses that have continued to see success in it was that brand recognition.
Sure.
But now we live online so much, it's very similar. Your brand needs to be visible across the internet.
Right.
So the digital landscape you need to be understanding where your customers are, and then you need to be there. So if it's Facebook, if it's TikTok, if it's, Google, you need to be visible in the places where your customers will be looking for you and the type of service that you offer.
Right. Well, a lot of times we think about brand as being like big brands, big names, and that brand visibility. But so why? We're most of the people that listen to this are going to be small businesses. Mm-hmm. So why should small and local businesses, be concerned about this shift?
That's a very good question, and one that has a couple different layers to it. It is really difficult for small and mid-sized businesses to meet the mark when it comes to that brand visibility because, yes, we're thinking about Walmart. We're thinking about really big brands when we're talking about brand visibility. So it is a complex thing, and there are tools coming on the market to help us figure out how to show up and how to understand where we are showing up from a brand visibility standpoint. So there's that side of it. But the other side of it is one area that makes a big difference for small and mid-sized companies is focusing on local SEO. So we can talk a little bit about local SEO and what that means as well. But that's going to be things like showing up in the Google map. That's going to be things like making sure that your brand is showing up trustworthy across these answer engines by making sure that you're telling the same message and you have all the same information across the digital landscape. So local SEO is the terminology for the tactics that we use to ensure that you're showing up well across the local area. Things like geo tracking schema in your website, things like that. Even the BBB's sub pages on your site that BBB businesses can participate in, even those types of things where everywhere you're showing up on the internet, it needs to be the same information. And that helps with that trustworthiness from a local SEO standpoint.
And I think what we all have to remember is that no matter how small you are, you still have a brand.
Yes.
That is, you may sell a product that is another brand, national brand or whatever, but if you're a two-person operation, you are still need to be very concerned about your brand and that image and meeting your customers where they are.
Exactly. And that's really what marketing is supposed to be, is meeting the desired customer for you is someone who is looking for the service that you offer. So it's really just making those connections. And that's why I like to say I'm not a marketer.
Right. You like to make those connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard, if you think about somebody who's owned a service business, whether it's a small plumbing company or an electrician or an HVAC business for 30 years, it's hard for him or her to think, what is this internet thing and why do I need to be out there? But in order for them to reach the people that are 35 and under, they need to have a presence, a website. They need to be showing up somewhere.
Yes, exactly. It's super important to have that brand out there for sure.
Well, okay, here we go. For business owners that aren't technical, can you give us a little bit more, like a high-level overview of the website content or design that we're starting to see, the changes that are being made to make sure that you're recognized, by the different answer engines?
Sure. And it goes again back to that creating connections. So it is about focusing on user intent and user experience. And so your content needs to answer the questions that your potential customers are asking. So one of the things that we're seeing is instead of it being a keyword focus, it's still keywords, but you're actually trying to answer long-form questions at this point.
Right.
So Google will recognize that, and so will the AI engines will recognize the question. And if you're doing a really great job of answering the question, then that's one of the ways that you're going to show up. So your content on your site needs to be holistic and well-rounded. And then there are other things, like I was mentioning, the schema.
Yeah, what do you mean by schema?
Schema is part of the way that you need to set your website up to make sure that whether or not it's a search engine or an AI engine, your content is coming out clearly. And so part of that are things like structured headings, making sure that you're very clearly using the terminology that people are asking, that terminology is nested under the right headings.
Gotcha.
So you have to have deep content on your site, but you also need to have the experience as if you're skimming the content, and you can still get the meat of what you're looking for. We can also talk a little bit about frequently asked questions. So that's something that's something that we're looking at a lot right now, and we're pulling our own reports to try to understand, again, how we get that question and answer experience so that the AI engines can find it. So frequently asked questions, if you don't have those on your site already, make a page. Getting reviews. So we've already talked about Google and kind of your location. That needs to be very clear, but also you have your Google business profile that you also should make sure is accurate and up to date, has fresh pictures. And within that, that's where your reviews are. So it is really important to have those reviews as well. So if you aren't already asking for Google reviews, then that's another quick win that you can do.
Yes, but you also need to keep your BBB business profile up to date with photos and videos. And we provide customer review postcards for customers to post reviews on there as well.
Yes, and that's one of the beautiful things about the relationship that businesses can have with the BBB. And I tried to tell people and my clients about it as well, is that trust is a really big factor for showing up higher and higher in any of these engines. And the BBB Trust Seal is a quick win, putting that on the website, but also having that, it's the same thing I was talking about, like that accurate information across the digital landscape is really important.
Yes, because we do find more and more that the AI engines are finding that BBB accreditation and are using that as they bring back their summaries.
Yeah,
and they will say that it's there to provide, that extra level of trust or confidence to whoever's searching. So now you're getting results right on the search page rather than clicking to get to that. So how do businesses need to rethink their strategy to make sure, we've talked about consistent content across platforms so that you come up in that, but it is a different strategy, and it's also a different way of measuring success.
None of our clients want to hear this.
I know.
And no one on here wants to hear it either. But you need to accept the zero-click searches.
Yes.
So that is something that people are having a really hard time changing over from.
Sure.
But you need to think about it again, back to that billboard, back to that magazine ad. They do serve a purpose. So if you are at least up there as one of the answers or the references, they're still getting that brand visibility, even if they're not clicking on your site. So you do need to accept those zero click searches that you have no idea whether or not you've showed up or not.
Right.
Just trust that brand visibility is happening. Getting up into that is one of the questions that everyone is asking right now. And apart from ensuring the things that we've kind of already talked about and will continue to talk about, I'm sure, through this conversation, about establishing kind of the experience and the expert knowledge and the trust factors and all of that, there's not an algorithm we can play that anyone knows of right now. So just really focusing on answering those questions.
Or a really good way to measure it.
That's
unless you've got somebody who's out there doing AI searches on all the different AI platforms and looking to see does your company name pop up or
And we are testing some
Some
tools.
of that is going on.
Yeah,
yes,
we are
yes.
testing some tools.
It's coming. It's just we're not quite there yet. And we weren't there on SEO.
Right.
When all that started, we didn't know what we were looking for or what we were trying to measure. So
exactly.
And I still go back to it's still search engine optimization, even artificial intelligence related. It's all got to flow into the same place.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so what are some common mistakes you see businesses make? How do you help them get better? When they're trying to modernize their SEO.
Sure. One thing we see a lot is really thin content. So people are like, oh, the website's really just a brochure. So we just need to get accurate content up there, but it doesn't really need to be deep content. Don't do that. You need to go in and if you need to hire someone that is an expert in your field, that's better, like a quality, stronger writer, do that. If you don't have time, ChatGPT is a great option as well for helping to generate content ideas. But please make sure that what they are finding is human content.
Yes.
But you have those resources out there to help you navigate and think through some of the content that you want to get out there. So deepen the content on the site for sure. Don't chase keywords. Don't do keyword stuffing. Right. Like some of those outdated SEO tactics aren't really going to do anything for you. And they might even negatively affect you because, again, what we're trying to do, based on our understanding today, is that we're trying to make connections. And that means it needs to be like this, a real conversation.
Yep,
You need to have a real conversation with helpful information that is done by humans.
Right. Well, people ask questions. So they want to ask questions, and they want it to come out in the form like we were sitting here talking and you were answering the question for me.
Exactly. So. And that's where that search, the AI search conversations, voice conversations are going. You're going to see that continue to increase in the percentage of how much people are using that as well. Another thing I don't want to miss is don't ignore the technical basics. So things like site speed, like we were talking about with the schema, the headings, like you don't want to ignore the technical basics. And site speed's a big one because if the information is not readily accessible, you're going to lose potential views and potential users. So
but they have to have a way to index to get to it to create the response. So if it's not, you can't just put a bunch of text out there without some frame of reference, right?
Exactly. So. You need framework, and it's important. If you don't know what technical SEO is, then, kind of take that next step and dig in and maybe get an audit on your technical SEO and how your site is performing.
Get an expert.
Get an expert.
Expert evaluation.
Yep.
Yes. Well, what's the difference between showing up in a Google search versus being featured in an AI-generated answer?
Sure. What we're used to and what we've been doing in terms of reporting for quite some time is really helping looking at how you're showing up for Google. Because Google owns, 80% of the market in terms of search, all SEOs, those are people who do SEO, they all were using Google to help them determine, get their data points, this is the number of, searches that are coming up. This is your clicks and all of that. You can't just look there. So that's one thing that we need to be thinking about is how to get that data, how to find out whether we're showing up, like how much we're showing up in Google and how much we're showing up in the AI answers. As we've talked about already, the AI-generated answers are looking for experts. So you need to make sure that you are a trusted voice. And some of the things that we've been talking about with local SEO, technical SEO, and having that the foundation set up well, that's going to be an important piece as well. And then we already talked about this too, but visibility now, it might not be being the answer, but it might be that you're on the list, that you're there as a reference point. So they may not click and you may not have the answer, but you may be on the list of where they referenced.
Right. Yeah, you see that off on the side a little bit where they're showing you where they got your information. Yeah. Which you then can click and get more detail if you want.
Yeah. And I'll say I've started seeing it. We have begun to get leads for our company, and I'm asking how they found us, and they're saying, well, I researched this, and you came up in the AI response as somebody that I maybe should talk to.
Well, there you go.
So I'm starting to see leads myself in my own business that way.
So that is a perfect commercial that what you're doing is working. That's good. If you're getting leads too, that's great.
That's great.
Well, is it possible to optimize for AEO while still keeping your unique voice?
That is actually a key
The whole
part.
thing?
Yeah, it really is. And we've honestly been talking about it in our business and with our clients for well over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Google released EEAT, and that is...
What is that? Come on now.
Yeah, it's experience, expertise, authenticity, and trust. And so those are the key markers for Google to be showing your content. And that really is that thought leadership is really important. So you need to be expressing your knowledge, your expert knowledge, and your experience on your website. And that is going to make a big difference. And that's authenticity, obviously, right there as well.
Right.
And then trust. And trust is both, it's going to be on your site. And then like we talked about with the broader landscape of how you represent across the digital space. If it's consistent, you automatically have more trust.
Right.
And that we mentioned already too. I'm going to say it again, plug for the BBB.
Sure.
Having that BBB trust
Right.
seal on your website as well. And any other Google reviews, any of that is going to professional certifications, anything that you can show to show that experience and expertise. It builds that authenticity and trust.
Right. So they're the credibility markers.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, there's all kinds of stuff, new tools to put in our toolkit. What's worth paying attention to? And what do we just, what's just a promotion thing that we just need to ignore? Or do we need to wait a little bit and see where we are in 6 months?
I think it's important to take a deep breath and not get overwhelmed. And I'm saying that to myself at the same time because it is a lot of information. A lot is changing. We like to call it running experiments. So we're testing things as an agency and as the way that we help our clients. So if you have capacity to do that in your business, try running some experiments.
Right.
And I don't mean just like going to search and searching for what you hope people look for on your website. I mean actually attempting to write a long page or article on your site that answers a key question that your clients are asking. That means putting those FAQs on the website. That means, asking some really close clients or friends who've used your business to write an authentic review. If you directly ask people for that, they will do it for you. So try some of those things and see what changes for you. But yeah, try not to catastrophize. Again, speaking to myself.
Yes, exactly.
But it is going to be a continual conversation. Even one of my hesitancies on doing this particular podcast to sit down with you, Julie, is I don't know. By the time this posts or by the time you find this, it could be completely different. We could know a lot more information and be going in a totally different path.
Version 2.0 and 3.0 and
we'll do our best.
Yeah, so we will make it work. That's exactly that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask a question, and this one's off the mark, but it's always been a big deal with Google that it doesn't show up till things re-index. Is this going to be the same deal that you have? So if I go out there and I put some great FAQs out there, if I put, if I really update my website, how do I make sure that it's going to be found and picked up with the different
That's a really good question. Okay. And I'm going to try not to go too technical on this.
Sorry.
AI is they're large language models. So
right.
Some of what is happening right now is that the reason that some of this is free for us to use is that we're giving it more data right now because it needs more data. So kind of when the first one came out, it had a line where that was the amount of data that it had been fed.
Right.
So that line is getting shorter for where the large language models go to get their information. And so it is trying to get, AI agents are trying to get more and more recent content. So that's a hard question to answer because I'm not exactly sure on the AI side.
Right.
However, of course, it's using internet search as well. If you have a paid version and you're telling it to use the internet search, it will go out and do like more recent internet searches for you, the AI agents. So you do want to push up that indexing. You do want to request that it gets indexed again. And so the tool that we use is Google Search Console for that.
Okay.
So you do want to have set up, if you don't have Google Analytics 4 set up on your site, you definitely need to do that. But you also need Google Search Console. And then when you do push up and put those FAQs on your site, you can go into Google Search Console and ask it to re-index your site so that you know that it has the most recent information. So very good question. Well, and hopefully not too technical of an answer.
No, that's a great answer. But for most of our business owners, they're just going to call up whoever handles their website and all that good stuff and say, okay, make sure this happens for me, right?
Yes, it's a very good question. And yes, it would be a really good idea to re-index.
Well, we've mentioned it a couple times about voice search. How do you see that really changing our world?
Again, it goes back to the conversational. So you really, this right here is a perfect opportunity that you're providing to your market of an actual conversation with two humans talking about real things. So if you can do that in your business, do that. If you can't do that, like I said before, you can create some prompts that help you organize your thoughts and write real content. Some business owners that I've spoken to, the way they're doing that is they're recording themselves talk about a topic that they're an expert on and then turning that into content. So there are lots of ways that you can provide real helpful information. And that's really what it comes down to.
Right.
One of Google's last SEO updates before everything started to change and people started using AI, they actually called it the helpful content update. So that still rings true. It's really about real helpful content from someone who has expertise, experience, authenticity, and trust.
Right. I love that. That's awesome. So what I want to take my 3 takeaways from today.
Okay.
What are they in this conversation?
Your 3 takeaways. Let's see. SEO is not dead. It's evolving. If you're working with a website company or an SEO company that isn't talking about how things need to change and they aren't doing different tactics, then you might want to reevaluate that relationship. And you can look it up. I have an ebook coming out that's hopefully going to be really helpful that talks a lot about this EEAT with Google. And we do feel like that's going to ring really true. So really just creating that helpful content and getting that content out there where your users are looking. So your website is foundation, right. And it is the one thing you can completely control. But the more you get that information on your website, the more that it's going to be out there broadly.
The more depth. Yep. Very good. Any other final words of wisdom before we close today?
If you don't have an FAQ page, that's a really quick thing to do.
There you go. That should be an easier one for most of us. Okay. Well, that is it for this week's episode of Business and Beyond. Thank you for listening. And Jen, thank you so much for joining us. You are going out on a limb with us. And I think you've given us some great information to help as we move forward. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to keep this conversation going, so make sure to connect with us on social media and share your ideas for future topics or guests. And don't forget to visit us online at bbb.org. Till next time, keep building with integrity, leading with trust, and taking your business beyond expectations. The BBB way.